4,500 years ago, a group of human beings built something so extraordinary that we still cannot fully explain how they did it. No electricity, no steel, no cranes, no computers, just human hands, copper tools, and a level of engineering precision so perfect that the margin of error across the entire base of the Great Pyramid of Giza, a structure covering 13 acres of desert, is less than 2 centimeters. 2 centimeters across 13 acres. And here's the part that keeps engineers awake at night. If you gave the entire construction industry of the modern world a budget of $3 billion and told them to build it again, they would fail. This is the story of how it was actually built, why we cannot replicate it today, and what was hidden inside it for 4,500 years that no human being had seen, until a robot with a drill changed everything.
To understand why the pyramids are so extraordinary, you first need to understand the scale of what we are actually talking about, because most people who have never stood beside one simply cannot picture it from photographs alone. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built by the pharaoh Khufu around 2560 BC, stands 147 meters tall, the equivalent of a 40-story skyscraper, and its base covers 13 full acres of ground, meaning that 9 football fields could fit comfortably inside its footprint. It was constructed using approximately 2.3 million individual stone blocks, many of which weigh between 2 and 50 tons each, with the heaviest granite blocks inside the king's chamber weighing up to 80 tons each. And the total weight of the entire structure is 6 million tons, equivalent to the combined weight of 12 Burj Khalifas stacked together. It stood as the tallest structure on Earth for 3,800 years. Nothing surpassed it until the construction of the Lincoln Cathedral in England in 1311 AD. And after surviving dozens of earthquakes, centuries of sandstorms, and thousands of years of weathering, not a single one of Egypt's 138 pyramids has collapsed.
Not one. The first challenge the ancient engineers faced was something that modern construction crews take for granted: knowing which direction is north. Before a single stone could be placed, every side of the pyramid had to be oriented with perfect precision along the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. Today, we use GPS and digital compasses to do this in minutes. The ancient Egyptians had none of that. What they had instead was the night sky. Experts believe the engineers of that era identified the position of the pole star, the fixed point around which all other stars appear to rotate, and used its position to mark true north with extraordinary accuracy. When modern surveyors measured the completed pyramid, they discovered that its alignment to true north has an error of just 3/60ths of a single degree. That is a margin of error so small that it would be considered impressive by today's professional standards, achieved without a single instrument beyond careful observation of the stars at night. Once the direction was established, the next problem was the ground itself. Before placing 6 million tons of stone on a 13-acre plot of Egyptian desert, the engineers needed to level the entire surface to a precision that seems almost impossible without modern laser equipment. The method experts believe they used was deceptively simple and brilliant. They dug shallow channels around the perimeter of the construction site and flooded them with water, then used the perfectly flat surface of the water as a reference point to identify which areas of ground were too high and needed to be cut down. By repeatedly chiseling away any high points, they eventually achieved a level surface across the entire 13-acre base, with a variation of less than 2 centimeters from one corner to the opposite corner. A laser level in the hands of a modern construction crew would struggle to significantly improve on that result. With the ground leveled and the directions established, the real work began, cutting 2.3 million stone blocks into precise rectangular shapes without a single powered tool. The primary stone used in the outer structure was limestone, quarried from deposits at Tura, approximately 250 kilometers from the Giza Plateau, and transported by boat along the Nile River, with armies of up to 500 laborers required just for the loading and unloading operations at each end of the journey.
The cutting was done using chisels made not from pure copper, which is too soft to cut stone effectively, but from copper deliberately mixed with arsenic, a combination that produced a significantly harder and more durable cutting edge. Wooden hammers drove these copper arsenic chisels into the limestone, block after block, hour after hour, in a process that required extraordinary patience and skill. And historians estimate that at peak construction, somewhere between 20,000 and 30,000 workers were engaged on the site at any given time, organized into highly structured teams with their own names, their own supervisors, and their own competitive records of daily output that have been found inscribed on the walls of workers' villages nearby.
The interior of the pyramid presented an entirely different and more difficult engineering challenge because the chambers inside, particularly the king's chamber, were not built from limestone, but from granite, the hardest natural stone on Earth after diamond, quarried from Aswan, nearly 900 kilometers away. Even today, cutting granite requires powerful industrial diamond-tipped saws and grinders. The ancient Egyptians had none of those tools, and for many years, archaeologists genuinely could not explain how they had managed to cut granite blocks so cleanly and precisely that the joints between them are tighter than a credit card. The answer, when it was finally discovered, was both surprising and elegant. The Egyptians used a weighted, toothless saw, essentially a flat blade with no cutting teeth at all, combined with an abrasive material called quartz sand poured into the cut as the blade moved back and forth. The sand did the actual cutting, being ground into the granite by the movement of the blade, and the blade simply guided it. Using this method, cutting a single large granite block took approximately 4 months of sustained effort. The Egyptians used this technique to produce 80-ton blocks of granite, cut to tolerances so precise that even today you cannot slide a credit card into the joint between them.
Getting those blocks, weighing anywhere from 2 to 80 tons, up the rising face of a pyramid that would eventually reach 147 meters high, is arguably the greatest unsolved mystery in all of engineering history. No tool, no ramp, no mechanism found at any pyramid site fully and conclusively explains how blocks of that weight were raised to that height with that level of precision. The most widely accepted theory among archaeologists today is that the builders used enormous earthen ramps, either a single straight ramp extending outward from one face of the pyramid, or a spiral ramp that wound around the outside as the structure rose, along which the stone blocks were dragged on wooden sledges by teams of workers. Experiments have shown that a team of around 20 workers could move a 2-ton block on a lubricated wooden sledge, and paintings found inside Egyptian tombs show workers pouring liquid ahead of the sledge to reduce friction. But even if ramps explain how the lower levels were built, the physics of raising 80-ton granite blocks to the height of the king's chamber, approximately 40 meters above ground level, using nothing but human muscle and wooden sledges, remains a subject of genuine debate among the most respected engineers and archaeologists in the world today. And this is precisely why modern engineers, when faced with the question of whether we could build the Great Pyramid today, consistently arrive at the same uncomfortable answer: not easily and not cheaply.
And now we come back to the robot. In recent years, researchers sent a small robotic camera inside the Great Pyramid to explore passages that human beings could not physically fit inside. The robot moved through narrow shafts for several meters before stopping, blocked by a stone slab that had sat undisturbed in the darkness for 4,500 years. The researchers knew that something was behind it. They fitted the robot with a small drill, bored a hole through the slab, pushed a fiber optic camera through the hole, and looked. What they saw on the other side of that slab? A chamber that no human being had entered or seen since the pyramid was sealed around 2560 BC, were marks on the wall, red painted marks. The marks of the workers who had placed those stones, their handprints, their tally marks, their names. Human beings who had lived 4,500 years before any of us, leaving their signature on a wall they knew no one would see for millennia, in a structure they built without any of the tools we consider essential for construction today.
The pyramids were not built by slaves, as was once believed. Modern archaeology has found the workers' villages, their medical records, their pay, their names. They were skilled professionals who were fed, housed, and treated for injuries. They built the pyramids because they believed in what they were building. And what they built has outlasted every empire, every technology, and every structure that the ancient world produced. We can calculate what it would cost to replicate it. We can theorize how it was done, but we cannot fully explain it, and we cannot yet match it. The most sophisticated civilization in human history, with satellites and supercomputers and $3 billion, would build something that looks the same, but would never quite be the same. Because what made the pyramids truly impossible was not the engineering, it was the belief. Subscribe to RM Journal for the stories that time forgot to tell you.